I have some good news to share with all of you as we continue to fight COVID-19. Yes, cases are coming down and that is great news, but we are still living with a lot of risk, especially for many of us who might be at a high risk of progressing into severe COVID-19 if they get infected. So just last week, FDA gave emergency use authorization to a new monoclonal antibody treatment. This is great news because as we get new variants, Omicron being the latest, some of the old monoclonal antibody treatments are no longer effective, and that's being shown right now. So we have to continue developing these new treatment options for especially those who are at high risk. Hello everyone, I'm Naveen Agarwal and welcome to my weekly video update. I'm super excited about this news and I hope you will be too. And this will be of great benefit to a lot of people and give us a lot of peace of mind that we have another option available to us in case we get infected. Of course, our best protection is getting the vaccine and the booster shots. If there are no medical reasons for not doing that, you must definitely get the vaccine and keep up with your booster shots. But in case even after that we get infected, this is an option for us to consider, especially if we are at very high risk. So in this video, I will share with you what this is all about, why this is so exciting. But first we will look into just some basic idea, basic concept of why the old monoclonal antibody treatments may no longer be effective. We look into that. Then look into the clinical trial data for this particular monoclonal antibody treatment. See, how well it did and what was the basis for this decision for the FDA. Briefly look into some side effects that can happen. This is not without risk. So we can look into some of those side effects. But continue to share in the comments below your thoughts and questions, and I'll sure to follow up with you. Okay, so let's look into it. So first we will look at the SARSV2 structure, and this is just a refresher for a lot of you. You might have seen this already. This is a particle, and outside the particle there's like a crown-like structure. That's why these are called coronaviruses. And one portion of that crown is that spike protein that we have all heard about. Now, why is this important? Because spike protein has a region, a structure inside spike protein that allows this virus to bind to our cells and enter our cells and replicate and become really out of control. So this is how the vaccines are working. They stimulate the production of spike protein into our system, and our immune system responds by creating antibodies. Now that's a preventive measure. What happens if you get infected? Now the virus is already inside there. Then we give a monoclonal antibody treatment. Monoclonal just means one type of antibody, one very specific antibody that is designed to target this binding domain of the spike protein. And the idea is when we give the antibody treatments, that will go and bind against this spike protein and prevent it from going inside our cells. So vaccine is a preventive measure. You are prepared for the virus when it arrives because your system has developed the antibodies to that spike protein. Or you can get this treatment if you have not taken vaccinated or you get infected. So that can stop the replication of the virus. That's how it is working. So in many ways, they are similar to each other. So this monoclonal antibody comes from Eli Lilly, which is a big pharmaceutical name. They licensed it from some other companies, but they are the ones who are commercializing it, and they are the ones who have received the emergency use authorization. So it's quite a mouthful. Bebtelovimab. It's quite a mouthful name. It's a name by which it is known. So it's a new treatment, and it's for mild to moderate COVID-19, not serious COVID-19. So it's more of a preventive measure. If you get infected and if you have a high risk of getting severe disease, get this treatment first so that you don't get to that severe disease. It's authorized for adults and pediatric patients 12 years or older. You have to be about 80 pounds at least in weight, who test positive and at high risk of severe disease, and is shown to be effective against Omicron, at least in their lab studies. It's not authorized for patients who are already hospitalized. If you have progressed to a high severity level disease from COVID, you're already in the hospital receiving oxygen or mechanical ventilation, this is not for you. It will not work. It will work only in the early stages. Most importantly, Lilly has signed an agreement with US government to supply 600,000 doses. That means we will have supply. And if we need it, we can take advantage of this option. So that's great news. So let's look at some clinical trial results very briefly. This is part of their Blaze 4 trials from the phase 2. You can find more details on clinicaltrials.gov. So in the placebo-controlled part of this trial, they had 380 low-risk patients. They were randomized to receive the placebo, bebtelovimab, which is this monoclonal antibody, or bebtelovimab, this one, plus some other monoclonal antibodies from Lilly. It's a combination. It's a cocktail antibody in one case, one specific antibody, and placebo. They're all randomized. So they were able to show that the bebtelovimab treatment lowered viral load by day 5, which means it really worked, that the virus was not able to replicate as much. They also showed that the days over which symptoms sustained was also lower. But that's only low risk, right? That is only part of the story. The other part of the story is when they look at 150 high-risk patients. And they were randomized to receive a single shot of bebtelovimab, which is this antibody, or bebtelovimab with other antibody combinations, a cocktail. So either single or a cocktail mix. And they were able to show that the hospitalization and death rates through day 29 were lower than placebo-controlled previous trials with high-risk patients. So they looked at data from different parts of the clinical trial to be able to make that determination. This is not an approval, right? This is a risk-based calculation for emergency use only. That is why we cannot say that it's not without risk. But the FDA has made a calculation that not having this option right now is riskier for people who can progress to very high severe disease. And as a result, they took pieces of clinical trial data to make a case and understand that yes, it can provide us with some benefits, especially because we have new variants and the old antibody treatments are probably no longer as effective as they were before. So we have to do something on an emergency basis. Let's talk about the side effects. In many ways, it's no different than receiving a vaccine, in my opinion. It's something kind of a foreign body going inside your own body. Your immune system may respond to it through a severe allergic reaction, similar to that to a vaccine. It can happen. Or it can be a simple rash, pain, maybe some fever, pain at the injection site. You can have all those symptoms. So your risk factors, individual risk factors may be different, and that is why you have to evaluate this one-on-one with your doctor. What is worse for you? Is progressing to high severity COVID is much higher risk than the slightly higher risk for these local reactions or let's say pain or rash or fever. That calculation has to be done on an individual basis one-on-one, and I keep emphasizing that in all my videos, that what we learn is applicable in general. On an individual basis, your calculation would be very different and you have to talk to your doctor before making the final decision. So hey, in conclusion, I think this is great news because it gives us another option to fight COVID-19 in case, unfortunately, we get infected. And we know even if we are vaccinated, we can get infected. The best advice is get vaccinated. If you don't have a medical reason for not doing that, you must definitely get vaccinated as a preventive measure and stay up to date with the booster shots. That's the best course of action. But even despite that, you can get infected. And if you are at high risk for progressing into severe COVID-19, and there are many risk factors, you can discuss that with your doctor, this is a potential option for you in the early phase of your infection. I hope this is useful. Please let me know your questions and comments. And I want to thank you for your continued engagement on my channel. All the questions that come my way, all the discussions that come my way and comments, I really appreciate that. So keep that coming. Thank you again, and I look forward to hearing from you.